Hello, I don't know whether this video would be useful or not, but I thought that I would explain the logic behind learning or how I perceive learning. So in order to do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about my understanding and then or about how I've come to this logic, and then I'll actually explain the logic, hopefully without too much waffle. Basically, going back 20 odd years ago, I worked in early years and then let's move that down a bit. And then I got a job working in a hostel for children who had profound autism and couldn't cope in mainstream schools. At the same time, I was doing my degree through the Open University, and I'd gone into the school and asked about my oldest daughter potentially being mildly dyslexic. And their response was that basically dyslexia is an excuse for laziness. So there wasn't a problem, so don't worry about it. So I thought, well, if I can learn as much as I can about dyslexia and different learning styles, then hopefully whatever I learn will complement my degree and I can also use it to help her. Not that she ever wanted my help. But anyway, what I learned, and this is basically the foundations of everything within this membership group and everything we do with Clara James, is that if I give you a worksheet to do, and then another worksheet on the same subject and another worksheet. Basically, what we're doing is we're creating one place in your mind where that memory is stored. And each time I give you a new worksheet, we're making that memory that little bit stronger. However, if your brain doesn't think in a linear fashion because you're dyslexic, you're ASD or ADHD, or even just the teacher's suddenly gone, Dawn, what's the answer to that question? You go, panic, I don't know, because your brain is busy flapping around inside your head and it's only got this one place to go to, or your mind is your brain, and it only has one place to go to find this piece of information. However, if we use multiple different resources, so I've got a really itchy nose. If we use multiple different resources, then we're creating multiple different memories. So that way, if our brain isn't thinking in a linear fashion, or we're suddenly put into an exam or the teacher picks on us to answer a question or something, their brain has multiple places to go to where it can find that piece of information. So that was one thing. Another thing is I often use it, and you've probably heard me use it before. I often use the analogy of a bit when a baby starts to learn to walk. We start by holding on to both of their hands and we hold on securely. And then as they get more confident, we let go of one hand and then gradually we let go of the other hand. And before we know it, they're off running and they don't need our help anymore. And when we teach our kids with academic stuff, it's exactly the same. What we need to do is give them all the support that they need initially. And then as they gain confidence, they will slowly let go and they won't need that support anymore. And so never be afraid of giving them too much because they might become reliant on it. In the same way as when they learn to walk, they probably won't become reliant on holding your hand either. And this is exactly the same thing. A few things I would do is before you do something, I'm going to use the times tables as an easy example. Before you start, write down the questions and the answers in color and make it creative and colorful. If you can use a minimum of 5 example or 5 colors, you're triggering different parts of the brain, so they're more likely to remember it when they come to need to recall that information at a later date. So it's the same if you're doing spellings or something. Highlight that blend or whatever, or if you're revising formulas or something, write them out in bold colors or whatever it is. Be colorful, be creative. You can also use things like Play-Doh or gloop or sand or whatever to write it in, because you're adding an extra sensory layer. And so by making it more sensory, you're again triggering different parts of the brain, making it easier to recall that piece of information, because you're creating stronger memories there. And so I can't remember at all what I was saying now. So so never worry that you're giving your child too much support. Be as creative as you can be, because the other thing is the more they enjoy participating, the more likely they are to actually be willing to have a go. The more they have a go, the more practice they get. The more the practice they get, the better they become, the more confident they become. And it becomes this positive spiral. And the other thing is that never worry that if you explain something differently to how they've heard it explained before, you're going to confuse them, because actually sometimes it takes someone explaining it in a slightly different method for them to have that eureka moment where it clicks. So don't worry. And if, as their parents, as their tutors, as their teachers, whatever, it's our responsibility that if they're not getting it, to find that alternative way of explaining it so that we're presenting it in a way that they do understand. Because if we just keep regurgitating the same thing over and over, whether it's the same thing we've said before, the thing the teacher said before, or whatever, they didn't understand it the first time. No matter how many times we repeat ourselves, they're still not going to understand it. So be confident in explaining it different ways. Don't worry that you're just going to confuse them. Probably what you're going to do is remove their confusion. So I hope that helps. And if you have any questions at all, please do ask, either in our Zoom meetings or in the Facebook group.